Welcome to Masterclass series. My name is Mashauri and I'm with Azim Jaml. And today we're talking about decision making. Azim, we make decisions every day, and maybe people would wonder, why should it be a topic? Why should we talk about decision making, and why should we learn about decision making?
Well, decisions, all great leaders are very decisive. They make decisions. They don't always make the right decision, but they decide. And in business, if you don't make decisions, things don't move. And sometimes if you don't make decisions at the right time, at the right place, it can be very costly. And sometimes if you make a decision at the right time, at the right place, it can be very profitable.
Okay.
Because who goes first sometimes can make a big difference.
Okay, before making decisions, especially for the leaders, what things do you think they should observe?
Well, the key is, again, the leaders should be clear about their goals, what they want to achieve, and based on what they want to achieve, they decide to make a choice based on what they think will be the best choice to make to get into their goals. So decision-making process is to derive from what do I want to achieve?
Okay.
What is my purpose? And based on this purpose and based on this outcome, what decision should I make that makes me get the best possibility or the best outcome that I can achieve by making the decision.
Okay. In terms of corporate leadership, in which you have their process already, the decision is not a one-person show, and you have to engage a number of people before you make a decision. What do you think need to be the steps before you reach to a decision as a team collectively?
Yes. So, in very big organizations, which are multinational companies, there's a lot of bureaucracy because the decisions have to be made by higher authorities. So you go from, sometimes if you are in one part of Africa, you go to South Africa, and South Africa goes to UK before decisions are made, and that slows the process down, which means that the people are very slow in deciding, which means that other companies which are more nimble, more flexible, get more done and achieve more success because they move faster, right? So again, it also depends on what decision you're making. If the decision is to spend $5, you don't want to spend $50 to decide the $5 decision, right? So what consequences is the decision going to be made? What are the parameters of a decision? So some companies decide up to this amount, you just decide. If it's this much amount, then we have to discuss or what the process will be. And the team involvement will come when there's something very big that every team member has to be involved to decide something. Maybe when you're buying a company or you're trying to go through a different strategy, in which case you may want to have a strategy session to decide that we're going to be shifting our strategy because of ABC. So I guess it all depends on what the subject matter is and how crucial it is and how important it is and what are the consequences of a decision going sour. That also determines how much weight you put into it, right? If the consequences are very minimal, then no problem.
You mentioned earlier about making decisions on time, but sometimes there are also consequences associated with making decisions on time, because people may be pushing you because they want to make a decision because there's something fishy, so they just want to decide and to set the record. So how beneficial and how disadvantageous it is for having bureaucratic systems which tries to minimize the risks for making decisions in a very short period of time, which might lead to so many other problems in the future.
Yes, and that's why most of the multinational companies have all these procedures to prevent any ethical issues or anything that may backfire in terms of the brand and whatnot, right? So I think it's a question of, if you have a team and the team has built trust with you and they're doing the right things, and if they come up with a choice to be made and ask you to make a decision, the first thing you do is ask them, what do you think?
Okay.
And let them explain to you how they've thought through the whole process, what research they've done, and why they come up with the conclusion that they've come up with. If they just come and just pass the buck to you, you decide, and you just decide, then you're not empowering them. So empowerment process has to happen by telling them, what do you think? What if it was your own business, how would you decide? So you're now empowering people to think like an owner. You're creating ownership mentality. And then the way they think, the way they tell you, then you decide. It gives you much more better understanding of what the situation is. Then you decide, what is the consequence of making a wrong decision here? If it's very minimal and you trust your subordinate, you tend to go and do it because the consequences are very, very minimal. If the consequences are very big, then you assess by saying, how much can I rely on this person? Can I have somebody else have a quick look at it before we decide? Yeah, if I don't have the time. So you use discretion, you use common sense, and you use the area of what is the worst that can happen by making the decision, and what are the consequences of not making a decision, which plays the more higher risk. Sometimes not making a decision is also very risky.
Yeah, sure. Sometimes more than make a decision. Okay, in situations of leadership where you have to make a tough decision, which will one or another, might also affect, one area or another. Assume you have to fire someone, and you technically know by firing him, the family is going to suffer, is going to suffer. What are the better, as a good leader, and you care about people, and you have to employ people skills, what is the best approach to reach to such a decision, and how do you communicate the same to the one concerned?
So let me give you an example. When I moved from England to Canada, I'd done my ACCA degree, my more or less chartered accounting degree, and I went to work for a big CA company, one of the biggest in the world at that time. And they put me in a room with a box of invoices to do all the. Can you imagine me doing all the invoices? So obviously I was bored with all these invoices, and so one day my leader came to me and he asked me to come and see him, and he said, Azim, I think you're not enjoying your work. I don't think this is a cup of tea. And I feel, you're such a nice guy. You have seemed to be very switched on. And maybe if you took a different role, you'll do much better. But I'm not firing you. But I'm just telling you that if you agree with me, and whenever you're ready to go and have a better job, better prospect, then you're free to go. That's what he told me. Next day I came and I gave him my notice, and I said I'm leaving. Because he was right, and I realized that I was not enjoying that work. And unless they had something different for me there, I would never go far. And then I ended up with a mid-sized company, and that was really, really much better because I was doing more strategy, more coaching, more mentoring, financial affairs, but something that I'm very good at. So that was the best thing that happened to me. So the idea is, when you want to fire somebody, is because the guy who is being fired, the lady who is being fired, is a misfit. It's not that they are bad, but they're misfit generally. Sometimes they're crooks, but if it's a misfit, you tell them, look, you have talent, you have strength, and you'll do much better somewhere else. But here, you're not really doing much, and your family will even benefit better if you're somewhere else. First, from a progress point of view, even bonuses point of view, but also your happiness point of view. So you go home and want to be more happier rather than being more frustrated. So depending on what the situation is, if somebody's stolen money and then he's quitting, then don't feel pity for him because he already has pocketed enough to look after himself. Also.
Okay, let's go the other way around. I'm an employee, and for one reason or another, I want to quit. I want to switch job. And this boss has been too nice to me. He's my mentor. He's somebody whom I look up to. And I've reached the decision to quit. How do I communicate my decision without necessarily affecting our relationships? Because some people would feel like, he's not thankful enough. He has been here, we've done things together.
So let me give you a real example. My daughter, she was working for one of the biggest companies in the world, Johnson & Johnson, and she applied to work in UK with Johnson & Johnson, but they didn't have an opening there. And her old boss, her old company, Racket Bankizar, it's also a big company, gave her a job of a global brand manager to go to UK. And she wanted to go to UK, and so she took the job because she couldn't get a job in UK in Johnson & Johnson.
Okay.
And after she got the job, but she was feeling a bit, because her boss has been very nice and she liked the boss. So she went to the boss and told her that, I've done this because I wanted to go to, so I hope you don't mind. So she said, why did you take the job? Because I want to go to London. That was my dream to go there. And she said, but we can send you to London. She said, I tried it, but I didn't get it. So if you get me a job, what will you do? So if you get me a job, then I'll go with you. And they got her a job. So then she had to tell the other guys, I can't.
So it's good to communicate.
Yeah, because, you communicate, and tell people why you're doing something. And if there's a mutual respect, and if the boss wants you and you want the boss, it's just because there are certain things that you are getting somewhere that you can't get here, then there's a discussion around it. Yeah, so the point is, it's always good to communicate. And if the boss really likes you, they want you to succeed. They're not going to hold you back for if you're going to higher studies or if you're going to a job that really meets your needs better. They will support it. They will not be angry with you because they care about you. A good leader cares about the people and they are interested in their own success, but they also want you to succeed.
I want to borrow your experience, Azim, when you switch it from accounting to business to accounting for life, when you went self-employed. The decision, it's not easy. There's so many things which you normally consider. Consider a family, you have gone to school, you would wish to, do something of your profession. How do you reach the decision that many people, stuck? How was it? And how do you manage to make the transition?
It's a very good question. So in my case, I'd gone to a small hut of Afghan refugees as an accountant to do budgeting. And I was very shaken by what I saw. I saw the 14 people living in a small hut. The mosquitoes are there, the kitchen, the washroom. And I hear stories about how they'd gone from war to war to war, how they'd walked in the mountains for 19 days, some women giving birth to children in the mountain with just a shirt on their back. Some people got sick, but they had to keep walking, otherwise they would die. They came to Karachi and they had no rights to stay there. And they were working 14 hours a day selling corn. They're making $1 a day after working for 14 hours in the hot blazing sun. And there was not enough to pay for their hut. I was really shaken that I got sick in 20 minutes. And I couldn't continue. So I walked out of the hut. And when I walked out of the hut, the whole village was standing there. Mostly women and children, because most men had died in the war. And I don't know if you've seen a small Afghan child. They have rosy cheeks, big eyes, and a smile on their face despite their plight. And they were looking at me. And when I went in the hut, there was nobody. When I came out, the whole village was there. And I wondered why they're all there, because they saw me in a suit and they thought I was an important person. And I didn't know what to do. So I was there like 30 seconds and it seemed like eternity. And I didn't know what to do, so I walked away like a coward and took my cab to go to the hotel, which is a 25-minute ride. And in the back of the car, in the cab, I was crying like a baby. I cried and I cried and I cried. My soul was shaken. So when I went to the hotel, my colleague met me and he said, "What's wrong with you?" I hadn't said a word. And I didn't want to talk to him. I wanted to go to my room and cry some more. But he was probing. So I had to tell him that if I had to die for a cause, I would die for a cause like this. And I went to my room. I'd never found a cause I would die for in my life. And I said, if I die, how would I help them? Nothing. So what can I do in my life to help poor people like that who are so completely shaken, right? And so I realized that, if my gift was to inspire. I could talk and inspire, but it was a hobby. So I said, if I really take it seriously and talk about giving, write about giving, and talk about giving, and make people give more, I could help people like that. So I made a vision for myself that night. I had a sleepless night. And the vision was, in 10 years, I will write about giving, and I'll sell 5.7 million copies of my books about giving. So why 5.7 million? Because at that time, there were 5.7 billion people in the world. So I just took a fraction. I said that I'll raise at least $40 million and give it up for charity. It may not come from my pocket, but I'll inspire others to give. And some may come from my pocket. So both ways we will raise that much money. And I said I'll be one of the top 10 inspirational speakers in the world. So when I speak, people listen. Otherwise, why would they listen to me? That was my vision. And of course, then I went home and told my wife. My wife said, "What?" My son was 3 years old. My daughter was 8. She says, "Who's going to support them? Who's going to put them to university?" The tough sell. So it took me about a long time to convince her. Almost 2 years before she was convinced. And the only, she said, "I can allow you to do that for only with one exception, with one condition." So I said, "What's the condition?" He said, "We don't sell our accounting business. We used to own two, 3 businesses in the professional accounting business." And he said, "If you don't sell it, then it's fine, because we have a backup
plan."
So I did that, and thank God I did that, because I struggled in my career. And if I hadn't got the accounting businesses, I would have been bankrupt.
So I think it's important to have backup plan.
Backup plan, and also collectively decide as a family. You decide with this, because then you
and
support.
And what if, lucky enough, maybe your spouse is understanding? What if in situations maybe you have a spouse who's not understanding? What can happen? And you have a dream, a strong belief.
Yeah, so I think it's a question of, if you believe something very strongly, if you have the conviction, you can convince people.
So the intuition.
Yeah, you can convince people. Of course, you have to look at their challenge, why they don't want you to do it, understand their challenge, why they don't want to do it, and then meet their challenge.
Okay. Is it good to make decisions based on gut feelings? Or you need to have done your research properly? Because sometimes people make decisions based on the gut feelings and...
See, the gut is also very smart. We think the mind is only smart, but the gut is smarter. In some ways, your intuition kind of knows, right? So obviously, you don't want to be reckless, but trust the gut and trust your intellect as well, and do the analysis as well, because you have to do due diligence
before.
But the gut has to support it.
Okay.
If you do all the due diligence, but the gut says no, don't do it.
Okay, thanks Azim. This is amazing. Because it touches people from personal level. Let's go for a short break and we'll come back and continue the topic, which is decision making. Thank you so much, Azim.
Desire is something that you want. It's not wishful thinking. Wishful thinking is that you want something, but there is no fire in your belly. Desire is backed with action. What are you going to give in return to get what you want? Everything you want is a price to pay equally so that you can achieve that success. It's like jumping off your cliff backwards. When I changed my career from accounting for business to accounting for life, I made up my mind that I'm jumping off the cliff backwards, which means there's no return.
Welcome back to Masterclass series. My name is Mashauri and I'm still with Azim Jaml. And here we have a very important topic about decision making. Okay, you were telling your story, Azim, which is very interesting, and I think it's connected to so many other stories of the people. And I need to know more. After making the decision to start your own business, a new one, how were the struggles and how you made more other decisions afterwards?
So first of all, I think when I made the decision, I made a decision from a gut because I was shaken by what I saw and I wanted to help people like that. When I came home and I spoke to my wife, I had a struggle to convince her because she was thinking of more rational things. So bottom line is, as Khalil Gibran says, reason alone is very boring. Passion alone can lead to its own destruction. When you marry reason and passion, it's dynamite. It's powerful synergy.
Okay.
So in my case, the passion was what happened when I saw the poverty and I cried like a baby and I wanted to do something.
Okay.
The reason was I came and sat with my spouse and we discussed and we looked at all the pros and cons, and she eventually agreed with my business partner's support to do it if we don't give up our professional accounting businesses, which was our bread and butter.
Okay.
So that was the reason, and the passion was doing what he had to do. And of course then I struggled because I was starting a career from zero. I was already 43 years old. I was not starting when I was 17 or 18 or 25. I was 43. So for most people, it's too late to start a new career from scratch. So it was difficult, and I struggled, and it took me 10,000 hours to write my first book, and I couldn't put a book in the bookstore. And sometimes I used to have an event, we used to promote like crazy. We have 300 chairs, only one person shows up. And I'm talking to this one person like there are 200 people or 1,000 people, right? And because I was so passionate and I had a goal larger than self, which was energizing me. But it was tough, and my wife wanted to throw me out of the house, and things were not working. And financially, we were not doing that great. One year I spoke 185 times. I didn't get paid a penny. The following year I spoke 186 times. Didn't get paid a penny. So it was very difficult. But on hindsight, first of all, even though I was struggling, I was not unhappy because I was doing something I loved to do. And we had accounting businesses that supported us, right?
Okay.
Number two was that on hindsight, all the struggle was good because it made me better at what I do. So I can talk on my feet anytime from my heart because I paid the dues. If you don't pay your dues, you don't become better. As Rumi, the Sufi poet, says, like a chickpea. You put it in hot water, it gets boiled and boiled and boiled, and eventually it becomes cooked. So in life, if you haven't been boiled, you're nothing. You're not cooked. So I became cooked, and now I got something to offer. And you cannot talk about persistence if you've never had to persist. You cannot talk about struggle and challenge and failure if you've never been to struggle, challenge and failure. So it gives me more credibility to talk about things because I went through it.
I want to go to an extreme case because some people go through a way, and on the way as well, they experience more difficulties. Like it reaches a point whereby people have to go back to work, and others feel shy to go back to others. Say, people know I did quit and started my own thing, and now I'm going back to work. What's your technical advice, being very honest? If situations goes worse and you can't support the family, kids are dying at home, and you have gone to school, you still is a star, and people can accept your workplace. What do you think would work? What do you do?
So there are a couple of things there. First is that sometimes you give up very close to victory. There's a story of 3 feet away from gold. You dig and you dig and you dig and you dig and dig. Nothing comes out. and then you give up, and somebody else comes and fits 3 feet, and they find the gold. So that's something that you have to realize, that things take time. Now, unless you're chasing the wrong goal, if you're going to Seattle and you were mapped to go to Toronto, you're not going to get to Seattle, right? Because you're going the wrong way, right? But if you have the right map and if you're going the right thing, then don't give up so easily, okay? And go the distance. Yeah, going back to work is not a problem, because see, people already admire you for making that switch, but they won't tell you, because they can't do it. They don't have the guts, and you have the guts. And yeah, you failed. So Thomas Edison failed and became the greatest inventor in the history of mankind.
So the end of life.
People fail, yeah. But show me a person who hasn't failed, and I'll show you a person who hasn't succeeded. Steve Jobs failed. He was fired from his own company, and became the icon. So no failure, no success. So that's the last thing you worry about. You do the right things, and by trying different things, you had the guts to do it. So feel proud about it. And if you have to go back and work to support your family, so be it. But don't give up the other stuff. Let it continue, because if you've gone so far and you believe in the right, it's going to work, then maybe it'll work. But you have somebody who can help you to continue while you're doing your work, to pay the bills and support the family.
Okay, let's go back to home place now. We have spoken so much about workplace issues. I want to ask you, decisions which are more connected to family, especially in marriage, for instance, if you want to make a tough decision, when it comes a point whereby you think things are not working, the relationship is unhealthy, if you continue being there, you get depressed, and some people commit suicide. But the decision to make has so much consequences, because at the end of the day, it also affects the family, like your spouse, or the children, or the people around you. What should people go through, especially in making tough decisions like divorce, separation, or remarriage?
Yes, it's a tough one. I think the key would be to try everything else first before you take the last step, right? So have you tried everything to get you to the stage where you're able to reconcile, right? If everything else fails, then you don't have a choice. But in the process of trying everything else, one should look at it from a point of view is always look at from the other person's point of view, because you already know you're right. And the other person thinks they are right. So you go and look at from the other person's point of view, why is this person having all these challenges? If I'm a nice guy, why is my spouse having so much challenges? So really understanding from their perspective, from their paradigm, from where they're coming from, can sometimes be helpful. Instead of judging them and saying they're always like this and they're always this, that, the other, but seeing if there is some merit. That's number one. Number two is there's a saying, in marriage, it's not a question of finding the right partner. It's about being the right partner. So are you the right partner? Because there's two sides to every story. Yeah. And again, knowing the spouse and saying, okay, what is the thing that excites the person? What is the things that tick the person off, like in terms of put them off? So how do I go from what excites them and makes them happier, and if I have to praise them, whatever it is, to really start to make them much more amicable, and then you can start talking. And then the talk can be, maybe splitting is the best thing. But if it's done amicably, then the way forward also becomes better for the kids and for everybody. Okay. Because it can happen to best people, the nicest people in the world have to split up. It's not that they're bad people or they're not good. Sometimes it's just very bad chemistry.
Okay, take a look of the young kid who is growing up, and he has or she has ambitions in life, dreams for the future, and they have to make very critical decisions, especially when it comes to career choices, which studies to take, and all these kind of things. And some would wish to go for their talent more than studies, if you're a good football player. When young people decide for their future, of course they may be assisted and given some academic advice, but on their own, what are the things which they need to consider?
I think the key is to do what you are naturally good at doing. What's your natural talent? Do what you love to do, because if you do what you love to do, you never have to work in your life, because your work becomes your love, right? So because that you will go the distance. You will sustain it. You will be more persistent because you really care about what you're doing.
Okay.
And of course, you have to look at the economic side too. That are there prospects? Everybody wants to be a football player. Everybody wants to be a musician, but are you willing to pay the price? Are you willing to go the distance? Do you have a natural talent in that? And be objective and honest with yourself, right? And but very few people go and choose what they love to do. They always end up doing things because their parents told them, or I can get a job here, so that's all that matters. Sometimes it does matter in the beginning that you need a job, but in the long term, you can only become better if you have natural talent in what you're doing, if you love what you're doing. And so doing a bit of homework, finding out, say if you think you want to be a lawyer and law is exciting for you, but you go and talk to lawyers who are doing legal work, find out what they do every day to get an idea about, you will really love it or it's going to be not what you thought it is. Yeah, and even go and do some internship there to realize what it's all about before making a decision.
Being a national leader, for instance, and you have to make decisions. That people make decisions just to make people happy. We call popular decisions, especially in politics, when you want people to cheer you up and say, yes, this is the leader. But I want to ask you if you could explain to us a little bit the consequences of making popular decisions vis-a-vis objective decisions. Because sometimes comes after some time, you realize you are wrong. Okay, people are happy, but you are wrong. And additional to that, I want you to talk about when everybody else is against you, but you know you are right and you have to make the right decisions. How do you communicate when the majority are not supporting you, but you realize this is an important decision, no matter how painful it is?
Yeah. So I think, if you're a national leader and have so much consequences based on your decision, you're answerable to it from a point of view as a leader, as a president or whatever you are, or from your conscience and from your principles. And if you are privy to information that nobody else is privy to, and you know that you're doing the right thing, then that's what you need to do, even if it's unpopular, because popularity is very temporary. It's not permanent, and even though you want to be re-elected and all that, but at the end of the day, if you make a wrong decision, knowing that it is wrong, sooner or later people will find out, because truth always comes out in the end.
And people say it is very important to consult before you make any decision. Do you think that is something people should do? And when you consult, who should you consult? And what is the extent for you to listen to people who you consult? And at the end of the day, it's you, because if the consequences come about, they come to you.
If there's a fire in the building, there's no time for consultation. Right? You have to make a decision, because if you wait and consult, everybody will die. Right? So sometimes there are times when you have to make a decision. There's no time to do anything else. If there is time, if there is no pressure to make a decision, and then you can consult and people who you admire, people who have the skill set, you can still make your own decision, but you can have a sounding board with somebody to get, if there's some information missing, somebody can do some research for you. All that is fine, right? Depending on how much leeway you have in terms of the timeline before you make a decision.
Let's talk about the decision to start afresh. Because sometimes you make a wrong decision which costs you, and you have to, start again, start afresh. But it's always tough because you have bad experience and you feel like, come on, what if I go, I mess it up again? What is your advice if somebody has to make a decision of starting again?
So I think, in life, with every breath you take, you become a fresh person. And you breathe 21,600 times. So you have the chance to start afresh 21,600 times every single day. So starting out fresh is not a bad thing. It's a good thing. Many, many great success business people have failed and started again. And the key is, people who are successful, they can always start again, because they know the formula to become successful. They know what it takes to become successful. They know the ABCD of what it takes to become successful. And so once you've done that, you can fail, but you'll bounce back because you know how to do it. It's people who don't know how to get there. They are the ones who struggle. And unless they learn from somebody who's done it, they can keep struggling because they haven't got the formula, the way to do it.
Now, what about the decision related to collective responsibility in a situation where you didn't do anything wrong, but your team didn't perform or didn't deliver or did something which is not accommodated, and you have to make a tough decision, maybe to resign, maybe to, I don't know. What do you think, should people reach a point whereby they do that decision? And sometimes these are very powerful people, trustworthy, people with integrity, but they have to make a decision of that kind.
So when these things happen, you have to be honest with yourself, objective with yourself. You're allowed to make mistakes. You're not perfect. Nobody is perfect. And if you made a mistake which was honest, which was, and you can bounce back, You don't always have to resign. But if you feel that it is such a bad decision and it's going to affect the brand and the company, and your staying will not help the company, it will destroy the company, then in the best interest of the company, you step down, because even though you didn't feel that you were the one who was the cause of the thing, but you still have to kind of make the decision, because you feel it's in the best interest of the organization that you do step down.
Okay.
I think recently it was, I don't know, it was Volkswagen or something, there was a big issue. And I think even though the CEO was not privy to what had happened, he took responsibility and stepped down, because he felt that by him not stepping down, it would have major consequences on the company. Okay. So he took ownership, he took responsibility, and did the right thing, right?
Okay. And when should someone make a decision not to make a decision?
Yeah. So if you feel that you don't have enough information, okay, if you feel that it's not the right time to make a decision because there's no rush to do it, when you feel that rushing to make a decision could have dire consequences, in all these cases you will feel that I need to sleep over it before I rush to make a decision.
Okay, and let us make a decision to sleep over this topic, which is very interesting.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Azim.
My pleasure.
You're watching Masterclass series. My name is Mashauri, and we're talking about making decisions. Thanks, Azim.